Welcome back, everyone. We've got match 2 coming right up, and it's going to be BloodTrail versus Shaxy. We did just see Flurry take a bit of a crazy win, you know, on Mage versus Rivius' Druid deck, and he just managed to actually just get the win out of nowhere almost 2 times in a row, which was pretty sick. But let's move on. Let's check out BloodTrail's list and see what he's bringing to the table. It is, of course, another Cyclone Mage, but this one is built a little bit differently with those Astromancers and Rabble Bouncers. What do you make of this list?
Well, kind of a nod to what you were saying last week. You were wanting to see players kind of hedge a bit more in the primary list, just to get them a better chance of winning their first game if it's not against, for example, the class they were expecting the most of, right? So if you're preparing for Warrior, for example, and there ends up being Rogues, you still want a chance of being able to beat that. So in BloodTrail's list, we see quite a few 1-ofs. We see 1 Ooze, 1 Banana Buffoon, 1 Nova, 1 Sandbite, 1 Vexcrow, and that gives them kind of a bit of flexibility against more decks, but it also means that when you switch to second or tertiary decks, you can just take out the 1-ofs that you don't need. We see Rabble Bouncer still good against aggro. We see Astromancer here, good against Warrior, just an extra threat on the board. Yeah, kind of bits and pieces of a lot of different techs we've seen over the past week.
Yeah, this is the interesting part, isn't it? Because I talked a lot, especially last weekend, about, you know, hedging a little bit more in your main deck, so you don't just have such a bad matchup depending on who you face off against. But now I guess we're going to, as people seemingly are starting to do this a little bit more, we start to answer the other side of that question is, if your deck has so many different 1-ofs and so many different choices, does that make it too weak to everything because there's no strong enough core in the actual deck? Let's see what he's going up against. It's going to be Shaxy on his Warrior as well. And Shaxy, I feel like already, for me at least, gaining reputation for just not going along with the plan, so to speak, of week on week. Last week, everyone brought pretty much, you know, similar versions of Tempo Rogue, whereas this time, Shaxy brought the more late game with the Shark and the Togwaggle and stuff in his main list. This time, so many players, at least in Asia Pacific, have gone away from Warrior, which was huge in other regions. Now he's gone, now that no one's playing Warrior, I'm diving in on the Warrior train, and he's gone with this list, which looks, at least to me, pretty standard.
Yeah, nothing too crazy out here. Obviously, we've seen the Banker or Brewmaster kind of removed from the mana, although not even everybody was including that on the main list last week, so I'm not surprised that it's not here now, especially with Archivist Luciano. As you see on the screen, there is now 9 mana, so you can't really bounce it, at least not without jumping through hoops and getting a Geppetto, or
doing silly things.
Very silly things, yeah. But otherwise, standard list, Acolyte for a bit of extra draw. We do have 2 Omega Devastators on the main list, so there is some steam against Mage, but I am surprised that for people bringing Bomb Warrior this week, that they don't have more of the Mage techs in their main list if the expected field is going to be Mage. Now that being said, Shaxy might think his first few opponents aren't likely to bring Mage, which is maybe why he didn't go too hard in on his primary list, and also perhaps he's just hedging against the field.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me with Warriors, at least at the moment, and it was the same last week at least, is that the main deck, so many people only running 1 main deck Brawl, I think is just a slight misstep. I think, again, in terms of hedging, and Brawl's not the worst card in the world, right? Especially if you think people bring a lot Mage, for example. I feel like just running 2 Brawls in your main deck is just absolutely fine. I'm sure in Warrior there's a cut somewhere that helps with that, and I do think, at least in this initial list, the cut for me would be just Elysiana, because I think versus what at least I was expecting the field to be, I didn't expect tons of people to bring Warrior, and outside of that, I didn't think there were going to be tons of control decks. So right. The Elysiana sort of the help that she brings, especially post nerf as well, just didn't seem too powerful. But let's just go straight into it. BloodTrail versus Shaxy, Mage versus Warrior, with the slightly nerfed Elysiana, but most importantly, can this varied list of BloodTrail actually get the job done versus Warrior? Because there's a lot of anti-aggro in here, and Warrior does not really put on normal styles of aggro. It's not sustained aggression, is it?
Right. I mean, sometimes with some openers, you can just beat down Mage really quickly. We've seen Warrior in the past just play Town Crier 1 or Eternium Rover, nothing on 2, and then Clockwork Goblin or Elec into Militia Commander, Devastator. The Warrior can put on pressure if it has the right curve, which is why we see Shax keeping Clockwork Goblin early, recognizing that this isn't necessarily a game he has to, you know, take to fatigue. He needs to do something, otherwise the Mage can eventually overwhelm him. So keeping the Clockwork Goblin to just play out.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And again, big question right now for Shaxy next turn. Obviously, it'll rely on what BloodTrail does and what Shaxy draws, but for me, I have just consistently wanted to see Omega Devastator played on curve. Just play it out as a 4-5 and go.
Oh,
And we didn't see this last week from, I think, in Patra's game. I really wanted her to play the Omega Devastator, and it never got played. And all game, I think the game ended on turn 9.
Right before it was good to play.
Yeah, so for me, against Mage, you've got a 3-3 down, put a 4-5 down. What are they going to do? Like, they've not got... And if they freeze it, okay, spend your mana freezing.
That's the thing. They have to expend resources that they would otherwise use to like maintain hand size or save for Cyclone. So if you just throw out the pressure now, you might not be able to deal all 30 damage just with the first 2 or 3 minions you play, but you get them low enough to a point where now that you're fighting for the board against their minions, the bombs might just be able to finish them off, and it just buys you some extra time.
And for me, it's great because this might not be the strongest play in the world, but it makes your opponent play worse, right? Yeah, I don't mean it makes them play worse, it makes their plays as options worse.
Right.
Because instead of going, okay, maybe I'll just do a massive Cyclone turn, maybe I just ping pass and wait for my Giant to do something. BloodTrail has to respect this to a certain extent because there's just a lot of damage on board already. And high health minions.
Just chaining magic tricks here. There's no elemental evocation in hand, so he's just spending his mana looking for other stuff to do. He doesn't want to use the coin because he has the mountain giant, hoping he draws a Conjurer's Calling.
I think Shaxy was just smiling a little bit there because it's just like, oh, you pretty much gave me a free turn. You just spent 4 mana to gain a spell. Cool. Done.
Fantastic. So Shaxy has the choice of just developing a Harrison here, but thinks that the 2 minions he has on board is kind of aggressive enough. That he wants to develop a weapons project and set up for a Harrison next turn just to get some card draw going. He has Boom in his hand, so if he develops Harrison on turn 6, for example, he just sets up more board and gives him the turn where he can just develop the hero card.
And most importantly for me, draws him cards as well. Yeah. All Shaxy wants now is sustained pressure, and Boom is fantastic at that, but it does take a little bit to get going, get cooking. But now, Shaxy, one, is pressuring some damage anyway, because he's got this weapon over the few turns. But most importantly, if he plays Harrison next turn, he just draws 2 cards, and that might be more bomb activators, it might be more weapons, it might be removal for what Shaxy can only imagine BloodTrail's going to play something soon. If not, he just wins anyway. So yeah. I think this is a really solid play from Shaxy so far. I like the way he's playing in this matchup.
Didn't actually note this earlier because I didn't even notice. Shaxy's not running 2. He's running 0 copies of Omega Assembly in his primary deck. Which means there's a bit less gas late game, so it does favor him a bit to be more aggressive. Because occasionally late game, if you have the Omega Assemblies post-Boom, even without Boom, just pelling it on 10, there's a decent chance you get an Omega Devastator, a Boom Reaver, something big you can throw on the board. But without that sort of kind of power generation, Shaxy does need to rely on just early minion pressure and then hopefully be able to clean up enough that he...
And this is one of my criticisms, though, as well from Shaxy, is he isn't running Omega Assembly, but he's running Elysiana.
Yeah, just kind of weird.
To me, no warrior expert whatsoever over here, but to me it feels a little bit strange, whereas it feels way more consistent to just run other stuff that you can get done if you want to play more aggressive. It's still good in the late game. But just to note here, the Harrison, we had a slight spec issue, but don't worry about that, it's long gone now. But the Harrison, to follow up with the card draw, has now got Shaxy to his Brawl. He is finally going to see BloodTrail actually do something now and have some impact on the board. And he's probably very, very happy that it is not it is not Conjurer's Calling, because when Shaxy saw the Giant and then saw BloodTrail aim something, he winced. He was like, oh. But BloodTrail's bought some time now.
Yeah, ends up using the Ray of Frost to kind of stem the bleeding that Shaxy's kind of laying on him. I mean, you're nowhere near safe at 15 health, right? If you don't freeze these, you take an extra 9 plus the weapon swing. It's 11 damage, you die to a bomb. There's only one in the deck, but you still want to stop the damage from coming in, and this gives you a chance to, trade off a Giant, hopefully top deck a Conjurer's Calling and get some value off of it. Shaxy has a few options here.
I was looking at some really silly plays.
How silly are we talking?
Swing into the Giant and play Boom. So we can't trade off the Boom and then Conjurer's Calling the Giant?
Oh, you still can, because it goes down to 6, so you could value trade it to 5-4 and then still do it.
That's why it was a silly play.
Oh, yeah,
because I mean, he just initially it was like, right, you can't trade off the Boom, because when you can make your opponent not be able to make a trade on their Giant, so they have to either go face or
Right.
just Conjurer's Coin from the start. That's a win. That's a big win there. But obviously with the board, it wouldn't have worked out. And I spoke a lot about this last week, but I just love Boom on Curve. As long as it doesn't completely ruin you, Boom on Curve is just good. You just get it locked and loaded, your minions are frozen anyway, there's Brawl as a backup, there's Warpaths as a backup, so you take that turn now, and now for the rest of the game, Shaxy's mechs are overpowered.
True, but he doesn't have that many is the problem. And he used no Magnificator just for tempo, right?
You start generating them.
I'm thinking maybe it was better to play the other 7-drop. There was only one bomb in the deck, and excuse me, like, he didn't draw a bomb, right?
Yeah, 1 bomb's in the deck right now.
So I mean, the Blastmaster Boom would have only summoned 2 bombs, but I feel like that might have been better than going just stuck to Brew Mad Genius, because sure, now you have the upgraded to your power online. Your mechs do have rush, but BloodTrail's not going to do nothing, right? For 7 mana, he's going to develop something else. Obviously, Luna plus Images isn't the most powerful addition to the board, but it stops the Harrison from getting through. Developed the Secret as well.
For me, it's just really this Elysiana's in hand, and I just wish it was any other card. To be completely honest.
That's true.
Like, imagine again, you talk about not having any mechs. Imagine if that was an Omega Assembly. You know, things start looking a little bit spicy again, at least in the next couple of turns.
Yeah. So with the Shield Slam pickup, Shaxy will be able to clean up the Mountain Giant. Draws on the Clockwork Goblin.
He can shuffle 2 more, not this turn, if he wants to guarantee the double shuffle. But he can, and now just Shield Slam.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, let's go, yeah.
Like, Shaxy is seeing that Conjurer's Calling just has come out from BloodTrail. With Loot on the board, it's possible that he might draw into it, so let's just get rid of the Mountain Giant now. So if he does draw the Conjurer's Calling, he doesn't have the best target.
It's literally what Shield Slams are for in this matchup. It's killing big threats.
Instead, yeah.
And that Mountain Giant hovering there was a huge threat. And now suddenly, you can see this game play out, at least in Shaxy's side, of either the shuffling of the bombs or just brawl into the shuffle bombs into Dr. Boom.
Right.
Yeah, and then you suddenly think, well, wow, BloodTrail's going to have some magnificent turns to be able to actually get that to work. And so...
BloodTrail's hand was kind of full, so he had to be careful. He goes in for Vextro. He saw that a Warpath was counterspell last turn, so he's saying, all right, there's 2 Warpaths in the deck and 1 Brawl. So one's out of the way. Let's take a gamble on the chance that Shaxy doesn't have one of the other AoEs. So if he doesn't have one of the other AoEs, oh my god, the Dark Frog came from the Vextro. That's kind of funny. Now you have a white board, and you actually have some sort of, you know, pressure coming back onto Shaxy. So instead of just...
Frog's so sick!
Yeah. He's gonna Evocation here, try to clean up the Harrison.
May as well. I mean, it always cleans up Harrison, right? It only hits minions.
Oh yeah. It's not Flame Waker.
If it was a 2-mana 1/3 Flame Waker language hacker, Mage is good enough right now. We do not need that in the game.
That's why I'm not on the balance team.
Yeah, that's on the next round of buffs.
Team.
Brought to you by language hacker. It's just 1. Dart Frog gets OP. But now still just Brawl. Like Brawl, although you could argue that actually...
I like just Warpath.
Brawl, there's Warpath. I was
yeah.
wondering if you actually just shuffled instead.
Well, I think you want to just full clear here, which means you do have to throw out 3 Warp. Oh, you mean just play out the Clockwork Goblin as is? I think you do want to shuffle the damage. So, from my perspective, I think Shaxy should have just played the Blastmaster Boom 1/7 and just say go. It's been working out so far since he's been able to clear everything that BloodTrail has been developing, but I think there was a chance where BloodTrail could have just come back onto the board because Shaxy took the line where he developed Dr. Boom Mad Genius. Now that it's working out and Shaxy wants to stay to that line, I think he wants to shuffle extra bombs in to get the huge board full of boom bots from Blastmaster Booms. So I do like that he's just armoring up, playing out the Rover, and saying, all right, next turn. First of all, your board's clear now, so Sea Giants are kind of not a threat anymore.
That's very true.
Not that they're not a threat, but if you have to spend 9 mana on a Sea Giant, that's okay,
It's a bad card.
Yeah.
And now, this just starts to get a little bit too much, I feel.
Yeah. 2
more bombs go into a total of 2. So, 1 out of 8 chance to draw 1 here. And 1 is pretty much, it's not lethal, but it pretty much is, to be honest. With Blastmaster Boom, with rushing boom bots, if BloodTrail plays a minion, then the bots have a chance of just getting the damage done anyway, and there's just, for the second time in 2 matches, 0-mana Mountain Giant.
BloodTrail finds the Mountain Giant.
Finds a second one. Oh, okay.
No, draws the Cyclone here. He might be trying to find a way to develop Sea Giants this turn and just say, I kind of need to kill you. I'm at 7 health. You're at 51. We can't just keep doing this because I'm going to die to bombs.
You know, I wonder, with the, we won't touch on this too much, but with the random buffs coming up later, is there a what? I'm just looking at Sandbinder, 0 mana 8/8, right?
Yeah.
With Lunar Pocket Galaxy going down to 5 mana, does that ever much make the cut? Because that seems insane.
Perhaps. I mean, Luna's
I can
Pocket
see
Galaxy
it.
at 7 mana, people are just playing it off of the random Cyclone cards and like, okay, this is my turn. So if it was 5 mana, that'd be insane. Maybe we do see that as an inclusion. It also means these Sea Giants that we have in BloodTrail's hand, if they don't start off in your opening hand and you get a Luna's Pocket Galaxy off, you're no longer sitting dead in your hand and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to pay 9 mana for a Sea Giant. But 1, yeah, I'll pay 1 mana. I'll pay 0, sure.
You heard it here first. People are going to make room for that 5 mana Lunas. But most important, let's get back to this game and pre-buff, where Shaxy has a couple of options now. He does have the Blastmaster Boom to go with the Boom bots, but this might just be a brawl day. You are very favored to not lose the brawl, and by lose, I mean one of the big boys lives. I think is what you would class as losing the brawl here. Anything else lives as Shaxy, and you are pretty happy about that.
Master over the Runge Caliber thinking, what if I swing first, shuffle 1 extra bomb in, and then brawl at the cost of 7 life? Looks like he decides not to.
He's got 51 life. I wouldn't be too upset if he went for that.
Yeah.
He's just going to let the Elec win the brawl.
I'm
calling it.
Yeah, I definitely like the brawl here. Oh,
that's a win.
That's fine.
That's a win, yeah.
Ghost Face.
And now it's within bomb range, and
3 bombs.
There's 3 in the deck, and there's
20% chance.
14 cards. Boom, boom. Oh,
nope.
Escape.
Not today.
But the problem is, BloodTrail can't heal because Ziliax can't run into
This
anything.
is true.
That's such a big deal.
Another, problem is that Shaxy has the Zap Cannon, BloodTrail's at 4 health, that'll get him down to 1. But now BloodTrail just needs to say, all right, good draw with the Ooze. Let's get rid of that weapon. I don't need any more bombs, but I'm not drawing any more this game, so it doesn't matter.
This just looks like lethal to me.
No,
and I know it's not officially, but it pretty much is.
I'm getting flashbacks, Raven.
Yeah. And 1 to 4. Yeah, there we go.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't need the cannon, didn't need anything else. I told you it was lethal straight off the bat.
You just had a feeling.
Oh yeah, bombs always hit for 4 when face isn't. When the face is on 4 health, the bombs know.
It's
they
like
become homing missiles.
It's like magnetic,
Exactly, yeah. They played it to the bomb on the left side, just went on. It was great. But that's Shaxy taking a win there, and again, I just want to say I really just loved the Goblin into the Devastator. I think that is just the way you play that matchup if you have an early curve. I think you keep curving, and we saw the problems. Like, yes, BloodTrail didn't have the best opening hand in the world, but he was just getting beaten up, and he did nothing for multiple turns because there were no options. But that's only game number 1. Got plenty more games coming up. Shaxy versus BloodTrail is going to continue right after this.
Now the cards show me a thinker, so clever, but kind of a stinker. In a storm that's a raging, sits the last one I'm paging, a truly unusual thinker. All bots are now gonna go boom, but still, you shouldn't assume that I've made this selection on my own direction.
No, indeed, let's be clear. I have brought you all here, and now you're all in. It is time to begin.
The cards see a heart that is stony, and a totem that's all kinda bony. This witch in such danger will soon be no stranger, 'cause she's gonna be our new crony. We welcome you into this room, and we promise your enemies doom. Just one more who's coming. The last one I summon is a fella who makes things go boom. Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure. One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
Asia Pacific Grandmasters continues here, and we have BloodTrail versus Shaxy. Shaxy currently taking a very, I would say, decisive win in Game 1 with his Bomb Warrior. All down to, at least as far as I'm concerned, just a strong curving out and then putting a lot of pressure onto BloodTrail early, and BloodTrail not really having a good answer.
Yeah, it's kind of how you need to take the match, especially queuing with the primary deck where you may not have all the cards you want in the matchup. Just being able to get a win with the not necessarily an unfavored deck, but a deck that performs weaker than what you'd want against the matchup.
Exactly, and I believe we can check out the list as well and see what they look like. Both players are moving on to their tertiary deck, as long as I'm not confused there. That does seem like the sensible options as far as I'm concerned. But I'll just break down what this tertiary deck is for the Mages, because it has definitely changed from the builds we saw last week, right?
Like we mentioned, a lot of the one-ups we see in BloodTrail's main list have been cut in his tertiary. We see Mirror Image, Frost Nova, Vexcro, Rabble Bouncer, and Sea Giant. Cards that are difficult to play against Warrior, or just that don't have as much benefit. Especially like even Vexcro, it's kind of just weak to Warpath. So cards that aren't that powerful against Warrior taken out. We see Messenger Raver come in, something a bit early that helps you contest perhaps an Elec or a Clockwork Goblin, so it doesn't just hit you in the face the whole time. Antonidas a bit more late game with all these cheap spells to launch some fireballs. Another Astromancer, again we're talking about more threats later on, and then a Power of Creation as well.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Power of Creation. It's just one of the few cards in the deck that does not require some kind of combo to get really powerful. It's just one card army, and that gets the job done. And also, no Messenger Raven, because it is Discover a Mage minion. You end up discovering some very, very powerful things, such as all of the Mage legendaries, as example. Let's take a look at Shaxy's response to effectively what he will very much assume here is BloodTrail moving to tertiary. It's also Shaxy moving to his tertiary list, which is going to be the removed Eternium Rover, the Double Weapons Project, Harrison Jones, and the Elysiana. And then the additions, I would say the usual suspects that we've seen from Warrior last week, the double BGH, double Super Collider, and then the additional Brawl, which is a big deal. You know, all of these cards start to look pretty nice, especially when, in a kind of funny roundabout way, a lot of the minions that would have dodged BGH have been cut from BloodTrail's list. You know, he's got the Vexcro that can go wide with it. Rabble Bouncers as well has been cut. So now these tech cards get even more efficient versus the Mage that BloodTrail's going to bring. So, you know, who do you think actually comes out on top in terms of these two tertiary decks?
I touched on this last week. I originally, maybe a little biased, I really liked the Mage, and I thought the Mage was still powerful enough to get through the Warriors, but we saw a couple of matches last week, and even just in general, I think people are thinking that with the double BGH, Super Collider, the second Brawl, and the way Warriors are kind of just learning how to play against Mages and saying, all right, this is how we're going to lay out the game plan. It feels like Warrior is a little favored. I don't think it's like 70-30 by any means, but I do think Warrior might take it like 55-45.
Yeah, and I think there's like a weird sideways nerf to Mage, or at least in the way they build it, is they're still weak to this hard tech of Warrior because Brawls are such good cards, Shield Slams are fantastic, the Super Colliders are huge in my opinion, but the funny thing is, players can't still overly tech for anti-weapon, because you can't expect a lot of Rogue this week.
Right.
So if you hard tech for anti-weapon, it's literally if you face exactly Warrior. If you face anything else, then some of these cards, like you can only remove up to 5 and replace up to 5, which means one of these slots, or maybe even 2, that you thought may have been weapon removal last week, just you can't commit to it, because the second you're not against Warrior, it's just useless. Wasted. Completely wasted. But let's go into it. Shaxy currently leading 1-0 with this Warrior going up against BloodTrail's got to make the comeback with this Mage. We can start to see some of the late game extra tech with the addition of, say, for example, a second Astromancer, so one's already locked and loaded in hand. along with that arcane intellect, means that BloodTrail is going to start, have a decent start at least in terms of hand size. But again, Shaxy's just going for it, playing the Ellic on curve. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. I hope we just see Devastator on 4. Shaxy's already hovering
It's quite possible. He already has the BGH.
Yeah, okay, maybe not.
Now we can think about playing the Wrench Caliber instead, knowing that BloodTrail's only running the Hearthstone, and it's unlikely he just coins it out. Possible, I suppose, but not super likely. So BloodTrail's hand was a little slow. Fortunately, he had an Arcane Intellect last turn, which means that Giant is possible to come down this turn. And he does play it out. He doesn't have Conjurer's Calling, not a whole lot of reason to hold it. Kind of develop it, say, all right, Shaxy, you need to have the BGH now. Well, Shaxy's going to say, yeah, BloodTrail, I do have the BGH. We saw him just develop the Ellic, get early board. Wrench Caliber was a nice top deck. It means he can take this a lot later. He doesn't have to play the Devastator for tempo. He could have, but the Wrench Caliber was just fine.
Yeah, if you can shuffle 2 bombs, and it's not always, but it feels close to just 10 damage, right? Because the game especially if they've already not done big giant turns, the game feels like you've got much higher and higher percentage chance for those bombs to go off. But yeah, I really like this from Shaxy, and already it's just.
We saw him keep Super Collider in his mulligan, which I think is a good keep in this matchup. But picking up the BGH, this is how I feel. You asked me, do I think the Warrior or Mage is favored now? If you just stick 1 minion and then BGH a Giant, BloodTrail already has to start not throwing away, but like utilizing resources to try and stem damage coming in, and he's not even clearing the board, right? Shaxy's still going to keep hitting with this Ellic. He can shuffle more bombs in if he wants to.
This is the big query I've got about these mages now, is that because people are going so early game or so low curve, and then so high curve, the middle bit of the deck is being chopped out. And without exactly giant into Conjurers,
what are you doing?
You've got no mid-game. Mid-game just doesn't exist. And I think now the next step is more and more of double Sandbinder. You've got 4-drop into drawing either Giants or Cyclone.
You need some more consistency. People have been running double Banana Buffoon as well. I mean, the minion itself isn't great, but you can use it. It's something at least. And it does maintain hand size. BloodTrail is running 1 Sandbinder and 1 Banana Buffoon, so he does have some of that kind of transitionary, what do you call it? Mid-game?
I'll take it.
Sure.
I know exactly what you mean there.
Transitionary mid-game.
Yes, that common phrase. I will say, though, this is a strong turn. Now BloodTrail's working out whether he wants 1 additional spell. I don't think he needs to. I think I like holding Ray there.
Get 1 more freeze out of it on the future turn.
Like, are you consistently going to kill off these minions? Both of them? Maybe. Maybe that's the thought from BloodTrail. But for me, I think that was a turn that BloodTrail needed, or he was very, very swiftly losing this game.
Yeah, so good to see him go in there, recognizes that. He could have played the second half of the Ray of Frost after the Mana Cyclone. Right now, I believe he's on 10 cards, if I can count that correctly. So he's going to mill 1 card from the top of his deck. Maybe it's a bomb, maybe it's not.
I'm going to let you guess what I think Shaxy should do, based on my previous casting with you the past week and a bit.
Wrench Caliber, go face.
No,
no.
Failed. Always boom on curve, language hacker.
Yeah, because I don't hate it.
Just to explain, like, you are competitive on board. The minions are frozen, right? But they're still there. So you're competitive on board. If you think your opponent is going to Conjurer's Calling, which is worst case scenario, right?
Sure.
But you have Collider or you have Brawl. Like, neither of which you're going to do this turn because you're competitive on board, and the Collider doesn't kill a Giant this turn. So just play the boom and chill. Like, the boom effectively makes up for the Giant going face if it ends up even going face.
True.
And I just feel like it's going to be a good out no matter what. Ooh. Now, BloodTrail didn't have the Conjurer's Calling that we can see, but that was a very good pull there. Just letting the Giant go face is pretty huge, as well as clearing off the
Also good positioning by BloodTrail, making sure the Astromancer's in the middle so that the big minion that comes off the Astromancer can't be super collided into the Giant. Now, they won't always clear. You could get like Ysera, like 412, something, a lot of health, low attack, but positioning it like this means that no matter what it is, it can't kill off the Giant with the Super Collider. Which is something that could reasonably be in Shaxy's hand if BloodTrail's using his tracking abilities or backtracker.
So now with Warpath, Hero Power, and a trade from the Attorney Rover, which does have Rush because he locked in Dr. Boom, means that at least this Undasta is going to die. And like I said, Shaxy has the plans for when the board goes too big. He has the Brawl. He now has double Super Collider, so he actually has insurance versus weapon removal anyway. So again, I think, you know, Shaxy, or BloodTrail had a really strong turn last turn, but Shaxy has insurance here, he's fine.
I believe there's four bombs in the deck. I don't think he's drawn any, and he had Elika both times. Yeah. Okay.
It's not play the Goblin yet.
Correct.
There must be a way.
All right. Not a whole lot of reason to hit the Acolyte here. So I think 13 damage to the dome is the right line. BloodTrail thinking how he wants to spend his mana here. The cards he got off of Cyclone aren't really that great. Spellbender can help against Shield Slam, but Shaxy currently doesn't have any armor, so that's a little less.
I really like the Sea Giant.
Yeah, I like the Sea Giant as well.
You're not going to get it off for that great mana in this matchup, and I think 7 mana while you already have a board is about as good as it's going to get.
This does play into Super Collider a bit, especially with the hero power we see from Shaxy. Microbots can clean up the Astromancer. Super Collider can just clean up the board. Now Shaxy will be taking that damage, of course, so 8 on the head would bring him down to 17. So perhaps BloodTrail wants to take advantage of that. He does have Antonidas in hand, but there's not a lot of cheap spells. There's no Sorcerer's Apprentice, so I don't see many fireballs in the future, at least for now.
That's the thing. Outside of Antonidas exactly, you're often very confident that the Mage needs minions to deal damage to you.
Yep.
Yes, there are obviously summon spells from like the Cyclone, but you cannot assume it's always fireballs, right? You know, because more often than not, it's always just face damage. I do like this. I think Shaxy knows there's no Conjurers, so if there's no Conjurers and you kill these off, how many more big threats even exist? He's actually removing the threat of drawing Conjurers, not only because it's not live, but because he's killed all the good minions anyway. So he's getting there very, very quickly.
So with Apprentice Tron, obviously not this turn because there's not enough cheap spells, but BloodTrail can end up working towards game plan where he makes a few fireballs. But in terms of development, he kind of just has to play the Astromancer. He can consider playing the Cadger with it to get 2 ticks instead.
Oh, what?
That was unlikely.
Have they changed? Did they buff this? Summon a 7/7 rush every time?
Yeah, it's summon Undasta. You didn't see it in the buffs?
No, I didn't. I'm going to go back and read them now.
No beast in hand, so it's not going to... Yeah, deciding 1 ping damage is better than trading the Undasta. If you trade the Undasta, that means Shaxy could swing at the Undasta, which from 6 health would go down to 5 and lets him kill off both the Astromancer and the Undasta. He can still do that with some help from hand, but he'd have to take some damage. And, you know, it requires Shaxy to at least have an extra resource to expend.
I mean, just the Blast Shield into Shield Slam into Militia Commander looks mighty fine to me.
Yeah, he could swing at the Astromancer, develop Dynomatic instead, and then maybe even a Clockwork Goblin, just to get a bit more board.
Yeah, I mean, he ends up with a Clockwork Goblin anyway, right?
Yeah. I think I like this because it lets you armor up and sets you up for Shield Slam next turn, so if BloodTrail develops just, you know, 1 big minion, perhaps even Antonidas, maybe he's thinking, alright, what threats are really left in BloodTrail's deck? It's pretty much Antonidas, or a Power of Creation. As
is often the case, Language Hacker, you are correct. And that holding the armor, I guess, again, just my point of there's not much damage from hand from Mage normally means that your armor is relatively safe too. So you can really, not guarantee, but it's extremely likely that you do hold that armor to be able to deal the damage next turn.
19 is pretty safe.
And suddenly, that's bomb number 5. 0 bombs have gone off. 1 in 4 chance. Wow. It's always weird, right? Because when you don't draw a bomb, you're happy. Right, you don't normally want to draw bombs, especially on 18 health. The problem is, the longer you don't draw a bomb for, the more likely it is that you're going to draw all 5, right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the Stargazer, oh my goodness. With the Stargazer Luna drop, BloodTrail knows he needs to just step on the gas and start drawing cards. Yes, he's drawn some bombs now, but his hand's not going to win him the game. He needs to find something else in his deck that can help him do that.
And he might just be dead next
There is a Cone of Cold. Yeah, he could still be dead just to a Wrench Caliber hitting him in the head and then hopefully some bombs being drawn. There's 3 bombs left in the deck.
Wow.
Cinderstorm not likely to clear. It's likely we just see a... What is he mousing over here? Book of Specters?
That can't be the case, right?
Okay. That does not get discarded. And with no healing left, I think that spells the end of it for BloodTrail.
GG
Yeah.
in the Hearthstone business, as Shaxy just equips the Wrench Caliber. And honestly, for me, Book of Spectres was a confusing choice right there. The hand was quite large. You have to go back and look at it in detail to have a a deeper understanding. But as Shaxy takes the win there in a 2-0 with that warrior, the Book of Spectres in these lists, you are normally so spell heavy that it's likely you discard. What I would have loved is, say, Book of Spectres if he was on 10 cards.
Right.
So you draw 1 and then burn, and then if you burn, oh no, because the bombs still go off, right?
If your hand's full, it would get burned.
Oh right, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it goes off anyway because even though it's a spell.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I'm confused. If you go to 10 cards and Book of Spectres, then at least okay, he's trying to burn the bombs. I
Right.
get it, but that wasn't the case with that hand. And
I think the problem
rough.
with the Book of Spectres that turn is that there's nothing you can draw that would just let you do anything else at that point, right? There's maybe one mirror images in the deck, but I don't think you need to do the draw that turn. So I was kind of surprised to see that.
also, he drew the Swampoo's, but it was unplayable because he had 1 mana by the end of that.
Oh, yeah,
at the
the
end of that
Acidic
turn.
Ooze.
So it's not as if he was even going for an ooze to just let's get rid of the weapon. Maybe that helps enough. But yeah, Shaxy taking a very swift victory with the warrior, 2-0 over BloodTrail. It's match number 2 of 5 of the day done. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with match number 3.